Hello and welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. My name is Lincoln Shrike, joined once again by Kevin Soley. And on today's show, we have a special guest. It is 800-meter world champion Donavan Brazier. Donavan, thanks for joining the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
Obviously, it's been a strange season thus far. You've run a couple races, but I just have to ask, what has it been like running these small kind of inter squad, a couple other team meets? What's it been like this short season thus far?
It kind of feels like high school days back again. Because growing up in Michigan, like we just had tracks like in the middle of nowhere, kind of, and we probably had like 10 fans, like including the parents. So it's just kind of been like that. I think we've had like a total of like maybe 20 athletes at the meet. I mean, this next one that we had like a week ago was pretty big, but like our first one was like 20 athletes and limited to like two camera crew and like a little bit of like officials. So it's just been like everything dialed down to like an extreme.
You hold several big friendly meet records. Where does that rank as far as your career achievements?
It was big because I had the world lead in the 15 at one point, and I'm a 4 800 meter guy, so
Yeah.
that was a big deal for me. But then Mo ran last night, and he broke that obviously. But I was pumped because I had the track record for the 15 at Jesuit High School, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. It only lasted for 2 weeks, but that was kind of nice. But now I'm number two there. But yeah, I think we've been able to kind of go different routes with things. We've been doing kind of weird things like Raven and I ran the 2x2x4 this past weekend and stuff like that. But it's just kind of it's been fun but weird at the same time.
I think your win with Raven cemented you as the greatest 2x2x4 runner of that event's history. I know it's only been a couple of years, but you were the world
Yeah,
relays champ last year. You know how to
world
do
record
it. I
holder. Yeah,
noticed your
World
yeah, yeah.
record.
I noticed
Yeah.
how your team is the only team of the big friendly teams that went woman, man, woman, man. So you have a lot of expertise in this event. What is the key to the 2x2x4?
yeah. I mean, the key to any mixed relay, and I think we learned this from the past world relays, is you never anchor with a female. Like it just doesn't make any sense. We saw Michael Cherry hawk down. I don't know what country it was at the last World Championships, but no, it's always best to be the hunter rather than the hunted. And I think when you have the girls in front of you, of course it was Coco and Chanel right there, so they had each other to work with. But ultimately, I think it's kind of foolish to start with a girl. I think back in 2019 when we ran the World Relays, Kenya did guy, girl. So they anchored with the female as well. And same result that happened with Michael Cherry, same result that happened with the bigger friendly last weekend. They just get hawked down with like 200 meters left to go. So that's just not the best strategy that they picked.
How do you approach it from a pacing standpoint? Because I remember when the event got introduced, everyone was trying to speculate about what type of athlete would be the best
Mhm.
at this. And it didn't take long for us to realize, okay, 800-meter runners would be pretty good because they
Yeah.
can do short recovery. How do you, I think you split, it was a 49 and then 51. So it's kind of similar
Yeah.
to an 800 for you. How do you approach that first leg of the 2x2x4?
Yeah, so I agree with you. First off, I think it's definitely meant for 800-meter runners. I think when this event first started getting brought up, they were talking about having guys like Mike Norman and like Cindy McLaughlin run it for World Relays, which I thought was extremely foolish. But I don't know where they were getting that thought process from. But it's really, I think it's closer to like a good 600-meter runner would be good at the 2x2x4. But I've been running practices like that ever since my college days at A&M. Aline Francique, my coach at the time, his favorite workout was 400, 1 minute break, 400, and that was kind of the indicator for us for what kind of shape we're in for the eight, because we'd run them. We'd run the first one, to go out like a race pace, like at a hectare, so we'd always go out fast in like a 49 or 50, and then we just come back and obviously you're not pacing yourself the second one, you're just kind of going all out. But yeah, you just kind of stay in control, but you're definitely just wanting to put yourself in good contention, I guess, and just kind of play off what other people are doing a little bit. But for the most part, I think of it as like Diamond League or World Championship final pace for the first four, and then the second four is just chase.
I know you brand yourself and pride yourself on being a 4 800 guy, but when you run the way
Mhm.
you ran that 1500, some of us that just love to sit on our couch and watch athletes like you guys run two events, we're like, wait a second, could an 8:15 be possible? I just want to clear the air. Is there any world, any possibility where you run the 800 and the 1500 at the Olympic trials next year?
Um, Possibly. If I didn't make the 800 team, I think how the schedule works out right now is they have the 800 first and then the 1500 for the second part. So, I mean, right now the plan is to make the team for the 8 and not have to worry about the 15. But I guess if things are going in the right direction, I mean, I'm not completely, ruling it out running the 8 and the 15, but we'll see what happens. I'd love to do a 4 and an 8 instead because I would love to get on a USA 4x4 team, but it seems like the more and more I'm with Pete, the more and more he's transitioning me into running more 15s opposed to more 4s.
I think you ran a 1500 last year at an LA meet, the Sunset Tour. And I think you said at the time, like, I hope that's my last one. Do you like the 1500 any more than maybe you did in years past? Or is it still just all focused on the 800?
I mean, I've only ran two 1500s my entire life. I ran the mile once in college and I ran the mile a couple of times in high school. So it's still extremely new territory to me. I'm still way more familiar with the 400, and I still think I have more potential in the 400, but maybe I'm just being ignorant. And I don't know, just holding on to my past a little bit. But I've always prided myself at making the 4x4 teams for A&M and stuff like that, and not being a cross country runner and not having to put in that mileage. So I always kind of maintain that quick twitch and stuff like that.
It wasn't just that you ran 335 though. It was the way that you ran 335 that I think people took note of. It looked extremely easy. You closed in 52 seconds. How much quicker do you think you could go if you were in a Diamond League quality field that was at sub 330 pace? Do you think you could run that right now?
I mean, everything's all speculation, I guess, but I think I could have handled a more strong pace for the first 8. It felt pretty pedestrian all the way up to the 1200, and I mean that was a plan the entire time. Not do anything heroic of any sort and try to take the lead when I didn't need to. It was just kind of to stick with the pace. I think I was seated in the meet to be in like 339 shape or so. So I guess that was a plan, just kind of go through in like 59s for each quarter. But I think if given better maybe competition and just more on the line, potentially I could run faster. But for an 800-meter guy like myself, I feel like that's my ideal way to run a 1500. Start off slow and then maybe kick. And still, I don't know because I still am pretty new to the event. But I think for me, I like the way that I ran it, 2 weeks ago at Jesuit.
We always like to talk about doubles because it's fun to discuss, because you get somebody who's really good in another event and see how well they're doing in the next distance up or the next distance down. But a lot of times what athletes say is, hold on, I got to make sure I take care of my premier event first. I got to make sure I have that on lock before I think of expanding. You won last year in Doha, though, relatively comfortably. And I know it was an Olympics, so I know it's a little different. But do you look at 2021 as, okay, I need to make sure I retain the 800? Or are you at the point of your career where you're like, I want to continue to push myself to expand my bounds a little bit? I'm trying to think of every way I can to ask you and beg you, please do the double, Donovan. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I haven't done anything in this sport, to be fair, so I'm 23 years old. I think I still have a lot of potential in the
It's
8 to
debatable.
get better. And, I've had my growing pains, and I don't think I've anywhere past, not having more growing pains. I'm sure there will be bad things to come in the future. So I'm, all about, Rudishas was a god of track and field, and he didn't mess around with the 1500 too much or the 400 really that much, but he was able to really dominate in that one event because 800 is such a specific event. And I think I've seen in the past when guys try to get too greedy or guys kind of, want too much and try to defer off their original event, it kind of just gets a little bit, overwhelming for them. So I think, I'm going to stick to my event. I'm going to stick to what I know I'm good at. And I might branch out a little bit and try to make, 1500 teams potentially in the future. And I would love to try to make 4x4 teams, rather sooner than later. But for right now, it's all about the 8.
Well, you brought his name up, so I feel comfortable going in this direction. David Rudishas, 140.91. Some people have labeled you as the guy to potentially be the man to challenge the mark. Is that time within reach for you? Does that feel like something that you can get down to in the next year or so, or is that just far from your mind?
I mean, first off, Rudishas' record is something crazy. It's not something to just think that, it's just something that's going to happen. He's a once in a century athlete, it seems like. Would I like to say I don't think I have a shot at breaking it? I think that'd be stupid. I think I definitely have a shot at it. I think a lot of people have a shot at it, but is it going to be as easy as what I think people are making it out to be? No, it's going to be really hard, and it might take years of me really dedicating and beating and working on my craft to get anywhere near it. But I think I'm definitely heading in the right direction, and I'm where I need to be at, and my training's where it needs to be at, just kind of going forward into potentially trying to break it someday.
I don't know if you heard, but a guy you used to train with, I believe Dwayne Solomon, when he retired, I think he was asked, is Donavan going to break the world record? And he said, of course.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe he's just putting the bait out there for you. But what did you think when you
Yeah.
saw that he said that?
I mean, it means a lot coming from a guy like Dwayne. You know, Dwayne's ran with Rudishas on several occasions, so he knows how hard that record is to break. You know, he's ran in the same race where Rudishas broke that 141 barrier. So for a guy like him to say it, yeah, it means a lot more than say a guy that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. But I don't necessarily. I appreciate the support behind it. I don't necessarily want the validation from other people to do it because I have that trust in my coaching and teammates and such, but. For him to say that, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I trained with Dwayne a little bit in Orlando, so he might be just saying that to be nice, and maybe he truly believes it. But either way, yeah, I'm gonna try to do what I have to do.
What would it take in terms of what markers would you need to see from yourself? Like last year, when you got to the end of the year, it was hard to find many weaknesses because you had that big come from behind race to win in the Diamond League, and everyone thought, okay, well, that's how he's going to approach the World Championships. And then the World Championships with 300 to go, you blew everybody's doors off. What markers do you need to see for yourself to maybe not even get all the way down to 140.91 right away, but to take that next step to into the 141s?
I think the next step is to do what Rudisha was doing. When 2011, 2012, 2013, Rudisha, when he'd show up to meets and guys were competing for a second, I'm still not established enough on the Rudisha level to just show up to a Diamond League and to count everybody out. The 800 is still really strong. There's a lot of good Africans. There's a lot of guys, even well in the Western Hemisphere as well. But I think when you look back at like Rudisha back in like 2011 Paris and such things like that, it was just he was the clear favorite. He was just you could tell he's like once in a generation athlete because he would go out and people gave him so much respect that he would go out with a rabbit at like 50 or 49 pace and nobody would touch him. Nobody would go near him. No one wanted to be the guy to mess with Rudisha a little bit. So he'd go out and have like a 10-meter lead, 20-meter lead with 300 meters left. So I think that's a good step for me is once I can start truly, I guess in a sense he was dominating the 800. Then I think that's a good indicator. And I think a lot of it's, the mind. He preaches that a lot where it's like your mind has to be prepared to run fast. Your legs have to be trained well and stuff like that. But if your mind is not prepared to run fast and to go out and, create something special, then, your legs and your heart and your body's not going to be able to do that. And I think I really like that because I look at his training sometimes and, I don't do that often with many people. I don't look at people's training at all because I don't like comparing. But his training, at least from what he's shown, wasn't anything that incredible, to be fair. And I think that's because he just kind of would beat through his mind that he knows his ability. He doesn't need the validation from the workouts to know that he can go out there and create something special.
When are you going to run an 800 this year?
I'm planning on running 800. So I'm going to do Monaco. And then I might do a 800 before we go out to Monaco. So we're planning on doing an 8 in Monaco and then maybe staying over there, maybe running a couple more. Just because I think a lot of teams and a lot of groups are kind of calling this season of scraps from what it is. But Pete out here has really kind of emphasized us getting a full season and just kind of racing and just kind of normalize things as much as possible. But the first serious one for, a lot of competition and just a bigger stage is Monaco this year.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, were you planning on traveling out of the country to race? And obviously the answer is yes, but what went into that decision? Was it a hard decision with the pandemic going on to leave? And what obstacles do you have to get through to make that happen?
Yeah, so I think it's almost a work visa type deal because obviously Europeans aren't too happy with the Americans right now and how we're dealing with the coronavirus, so they're trying to keep us away. But I think if we go through the proper precautions and stuff like that, the proper testing and through the right pools and through the right I guess transit the way they want us to go through, each city and each country, we'll be able to compete in Monaco going through France. But yeah, the decision behind that was just Pete and just trying to make our season feel like an actual season. The Olympics are still, as of right now, still going to happen next year. And we can't just use this year as a recovery year sometimes, especially for guys like, I'm 23 years old. I'm not really that mentally out of track and field. I don't really need that full year of recovery from me. Because, I'm still, I would say, relatively new to the sport and the pro scene. So I still enjoy going over to Europe and it's not a big of a drag for me to do it or too much of a hassle. And I think it's just more of a sense of normalcy for us to go over there and to compete and just kind of do what we would be doing if the season hasn't been canceled because of coronavirus or at least delayed or kind of adjusted because of coronavirus.
You've only done the 2 meets in Portland or in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
What has the protocol been like though to compete? How many tests are you doing before
Yeah.
competition? What are kind of the rules that you have to follow?
Yeah. So the rules that we have to follow are, first off, there's only a certain limited amount of people that are allowed to go into each a venue, or I guess the stadium for the meet. So that's the first thing. And everybody that goes to the meet, whether it's athletes, coaches, trainers, or officials and timers and stuff like that, they have to be tested 2 times before the race, the same week of the race. And one of the tests has to be done within 24 hours of the race. And they just do the whole nose swab thing where it goes to like the back of your eyeball type COVID test. And we get our results back within 24 hours. And that's the first step. And then we have to get our temperatures checked and blood oxygen level, I think is what it's called, the thing they put in your finger. They do that check at the gate. And if you're all clear to go, then the next key is just wearing a mask inside the stadium anytime you're not running or warming up. So there's a lot of precautions that Pete and the guys out here have been going through to make sure these meets have been happening.
How badly does the nose swab test hurt? Are we talking final 200 of an 800 type of pain?
It's like it's like the it's like the 500 to the 1200, or the 400 to the 1200 of the mile. Like it doesn't hurt,
Oh,
but it's just
wow.
like really uncomfortable, you know. And it's just like you just kind of got to be there. And they take this nose swab thing and they stick it back to like your brain, and then I feel like it's like literally touching your eyeball. I'm explaining it, but it's not painful. It's just so uncomfortable. And like they stick it back there in the back of your nose. And I went to the drive-through center when they did it. They stick it back to the back of your nose, pretty much touch your eyeball, spin it around, depending on how gentle the person is. They might be nice, they might not care. And they just like freaking move the thing, just like scrape all the saliva off, whatever the hell's back there. And they just pull it out real quick. And when they do that, like you just start crying a little bit. And it wasn't just me, they said everybody cries. So when you get it, it goes back there and it makes you cry a little bit. So yeah, not really painful, but just extremely uncomfortable and not something that you should look forward to if you have to do it.
Oh. Have you been training as a group more because you guys have all been tested and are going through a more stringent process than you were maybe a few months back?
Yeah, so I mean, Nike's starting to kind of open up a little bit. Our track is accessible now, but when it comes to weight room facilities like our sauna and locker rooms and all that, that's still shut down. But as a group, I still work out with Craig and Eric out here. The girls still come out. Pete's out here wearing a mask, and we're away from everybody, just not congregating in the same area. So we're definitely taking precautions, but because of the testing, like you said, I think we're kind of more rest minded because we know that we all got tested and we all don't have it as of right now.
The group that you're on, which used to be called the Oregon Project, does not have a name as of yet. Is that on the table? Are you guys spitballing names at this point, or is it just going to be Pete's group, no logo or anything?
I would love for there to be a Pete name or a group name. I don't really. I think Pete likes us calling us Pete's group because it has his name in it. But I'd really like a more established name for our group. If anybody hasn't had any ideas, they'd like to shoot by us. I'd like it. But what we've come up with so far is just things like Phil's Nights, Pete's Pot. Just really bad stuff so far. So we're still working on that. Because every time we go to a meet and it is us racing, like they acknowledge that we are a group, but they always just say Pete's people or Pete's whatever. So I think that eventually they're going to have to come up with something for us rather than Pete's groups, because that's not really. I don't like that name, and I don't think anybody else on the team is really feeling that much.
Yeah. Well, does it feel weird to wear I don't want to call it the normal, but the regular Nike kit that everyone wears?
Yeah, it does feel weird because when I put on that Oregon Project kit, I know the legacy that was behind it. You get guys like Mo and guys like Galen and Dathan and all these great athletes that have gone through the Oregon Project. I loved wearing that skull on my chest and knowing that I'm honored enough to be with these group of guys training and know the rich history behind it. And no offense, I thought they were cooler too. The oil stain jerseys back in 2019, I thought they were pretty slick. But yeah, it definitely is definitely a little different. We have the new ones this year, the blue and green and like white ones or whatever. But I should be getting a world championship jersey kit, so that'll be kind of cool to still be a little different. Just have something different than everybody else.
Problem solved there. All you gotta do is win a world title. We've talked about a lot of things that you're good at. I want to bring something up that you might need a little work on, and that's your career as a rabbit, a pace setter, because we saw it in the first big friendly, and you essentially tried to kill your teammate and training partner Craig Engels by going out. And I looked and I checked because I went back and I watched the World Championship final, and the first 200 in Doha wasn't too different than the first 200 in Jesuit. What did you say to him after? Did you have to apologize?
No, I think my biggest fault is I have too much trust and belief in my teammates. I think I was setting Craig on
There you
pace
go.
to break the world record. So that's on Craig at that point. I think I had so much belief that this guy could come through in 114 and close in a 25 and go 139. He didn't want to go with it that day. He wasn't feeling it. That's on him. I'm going to set my teammates up for success, not failure. I'm not taking the blame on that one. I'm not going to apologize to him for that. That's on him for sure. That's not me.
But seriously though, was it hard to rabbit it, to scale it down, to try to do
Yeah,
that? I assume you haven't done that much.
Yeah, the 15s what threw me off too, because my cadence was so different for the 15. So I'm thinking, okay, 15 was slow, 800's fast. That's how my brain was thinking. So it's like I have to get out fast, I have to get out hard, and that's exactly what I did. And I messed up, and I went through in like I think 23 or 23, maybe 23 high, and I was just like, okay, crap, they're yelling at me, I got to slow down. So I slowed down a little bit, and I was still like a second ahead of pace, and it was just really sloppy. And Pete was a little frustrated with me, but he understood. I apologized, but it was like a half-ass apology. Like I didn't really. I think he still should have went with me.
I mean, nothing wrong with a 49-60 split or whatever it was for a 149.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to do that.
I was 49.
Yeah.
So
he was back. He was back. Yeah. This is good. There was a quote from, if we think back to generations ago during the indoor season, which feels like 10 years ago, there was a quote or an short article written about you where it mentioned you were thinking, or at least entertaining the idea of pursuing a football career. Was that a tongue-in-cheek thing? Was that just like dreamland, or what? How did that happen?
It's definitely a dreamland thing. I mean, it's harder to become a world champion in track and field than an NFL wide receiver, to be fair. So I don't think it's definitely that much of a dreamland or that far-fetched thing. I think I'm in the same category as a lot of people where when people kind of find their niche in life and kind of something they're good at. And I think anybody that believes that they're naturally good at anything, or people that are always good at something, they believe they could be good at whatever they want it to be good at. And I think I fall into that category too. I think I'm good at track and field. I've kind of, learned the ropes a little bit in this sport, and I know how to do it. And I think with the confidence I have in this sport, I think I could do really anything I wanted at that point, including play professional football if I wanted to. How serious I'll take it to try to get a spot at the NFL Combine and stuff like that. I don't know, probably not much. I got more things to do in track and field, but I think realistically, I do think I could, make an NFL roster. I do think I could be an NFL wide receiver. I think I could do a lot of things. And I think in track and field, when it's vice versa, when we see other sports trying to come to track and field, they're not really welcoming with open arms. But I've talked to a lot of football players, professional football players for NFL teams, and they've been nothing but supportive in my quest to try to become an NFL wide receiver, any spot in NFL roster. So I think seeing that, I'm grateful when I see NFL players be like, yeah, you could do that. I could see you doing this. Even Randall Cunningham, Vashti's dad, was like, yeah, I could see you doing this as an NFL wide receiver. Maybe he's gassing me up. Maybe he's just kind of, saying whatever. But just feeling that some support from NFL players, it makes me more want to pursue it. And when you look at vice versa, when we look at someone like Tyreek Hill saying they want to come run track and field, we're all like, what is your problem? Why would you say that? You can't do our sport. But I think that's kind of been our problem with track and field, is we're not as welcoming as other sports. And I think seeing how welcoming it's been for me, and I know it's not going to be easy for any sort of reason. It does make me kind of want to pursue it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let me apologize for being dismissive of the dream, but I will say, you wanting to play with the Lions, I do have to take issue with that. I'm a Bears fan, so I can't have you catching passes from Matthew Stafford. I wouldn't want you catching patches from Mitchell Trubisky either. So maybe we'll just pick a team outside the NFC North. But I do want to ask, you're what, about 6'3", 6'4"?
I'm only 6'2", but
Okay.
thank you for that. Yeah,
No,
Lincoln's very short. Yeah.
Geez. Oh, okay. Not that short, but okay. I mean, 5'10". There's been some slot receivers, 5'10".
Yeah.
How much would you have? Not height, obviously, but how much would you have to add to your frame? Do you think to play in the NFL?
I'm about 165 right now, 170. So I'd like to add another 20 to 25 pounds of, obviously muscle in the right places and different muscles that you use for, the NFL rather than running. So I think, yeah, easily another 20 to 25 pounds, maybe sitting at, what would that be? 185, 190. I think that's 6'2", 190. I think that's a decent shape. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And have you ever been hit?
Have I ever been hit? Not since
like
sophomore
football
year of high
hit.
school. I haven't played football since high school days, so it's been a while. But I think I could take a hit, and that's what our strength coach out here is, David McHenry. He was a quarterback for Penn State back in the day, back in like the early 2000s. And he could still throw the ball pretty good, and he says, yeah, you got the hands, you can do routes and stuff like that, but can you take a hit? Like you said, I think that's the biggest thing is if I can take a hit or not. And I don't know if I want to find out anytime soon, but I'd like to think that I can.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, maybe your career in track and field will extend long enough to where we don't have to necessarily find out. But I think you make a good point. There's track and field is maybe the worst at when a football player says, I have this speed, I could do this. We immediately are like, no, you're not welcome at all. You can never be here. Yeah. I don't know why we do that.
These guys are making millions of dollars. Do you think they want to come play track and field? Like these guys are making tens of millions of dollars. Like they're not like dying to run track either, run circles. So it's not like I think they have the upper hand when it comes to that. And if they're wanting to let go of some of that to pursue track and field, I think that is something we should welcome them in doing because they have all that exposure already. And maybe they could bring some of their fans over into track and field, which we kind of are struggling with.
That is definitely
you brought up your goal to get on that 4x4. Who would you want on your team if the only other members of your team have to be non-primary 400-meter runners? So you can't get Michael Norman on your team. You can't get Fred Curley, your fellow A&M Aggie.
Can I get Rye?
Yeah, I'll let you have Rye because he's a hurdler. Yeah, that's okay though. He gets two more.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Rye. That's an easy first pick. Shoot, that's hard then. They can't be 400-meter runners or okay.
So it can't be their primary event.
It can't be their primary event. Well then I'd cheat and just do 400-meter runs. I'd pick Karan then, because he was he's the world record holder in the 400 at one point indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, and I'm assuming TJ Holmes has some speed. I'm completely trying to I'm gonna play the system and just pick 400-meter hurdlers then because I think that's their next best event. Oh wait, no. I'd pick that was stupid. Take off TJ. Sorry, TJ. I would take off and I put on Noah Lyles is who I put in.
Okay.
I
Noah
was wondering when you were going to get to that.
Americans, right?
It's like at the end of a dual meet or a tri meet when the coach puts a whole bunch of 4x4 teams out there, and then there's like it's there's an A team, there's a B team, and then this is the leftover team. So it's still Americans. So who's your squad?
So the squad for my 4x4 can't be primarily 400-meter runners. It'd be Rye Benjamin, obviously. Noah Lyles would be on there. And then, for my third spot, I would run third leg because I'd be the slowest one of all these people. So then, actually, we're gonna do it each leg then. So the first leg I would pick Noah Lyles. Second leg I would pick Karan. Third leg I'd pick myself. And fourth leg I would pick Rye Benjamin to anchor off. I think that's a solid squad. Yeah.
Yeah. Other candidates include Grant Holloway. I guess we could put him somewhere in that mix.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. You got me there. That was.
Yeah. That's okay. There's a lot of guys. That's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys.
Dang.
Lucky for you, Grant never watches our content.
Putting in Grant for Karan. That's what we're going to do. We're going to swap out Grant and Karan. Sorry. So we knocked out TJ and Karan, and then we added Noah and Grant, and then Rye, and then myself. I'm definitely the weak link on that relay, but I'll take him. I'll do a third leg. Yeah.
Well, what are you splitting right now? Are you splitting sub 45 in a 4x4? What do you think you could do?
Yeah, I'd split sub 44.5, and if you give me or sub 45 at least, you give me some time to train for it. Maybe I could get that time a little bit more down. But right now, put me on a world championship 4x4. I'm definitely going 45 mid, maybe split or so.
Wow.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, possibly.
I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, possibly. Okay, we'll just around 45. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you could win gold with that team, though. That's the beauty of the team. If you have Rye, Noah, and Grant around you, I think a 45 would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I'll be third leg, and they might be a little pissed at me for running that slow, but that's why I picked you guys to pick up my dead weight. I think that's a decent team.
Well, I know track and field athletes, their favorite question is how fast are you going to run here? But I do want to ask, can you give us a prediction? Can you tell us how fast are you going to run in Monaco?
No, I can't tell you. I have no clue. No clue whatsoever. I've not done many indicator workouts. If you told me what I was supposed to remember for the 1500, I probably would have told you 345. I really do not know. I'm so bad at indicating stuff like that. I just go out and race. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know how many world finalists are going to be in that race for Monaco. But, if given the opportunity to run fast, I don't see any reason why I can't shoot for, another fast time. Maybe potentially PR. I don't know. But for time-wise, specific time-wise, I don't know.
And the great thing about your PR now, every time you get a PR, you have a new American record. So that's nice.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
Well, arguably the second best 800-meter runner in the world trains a couple hours from you in Eugene. Now, I know you guys didn't face off in that 2x2x4 because you did that lineup switch, but I mean, is there any chance that you two would link up for a race before you go to Europe?
Potentially. Maybe. I think. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit. Like, yeah, we need to get some races in, but we don't want to just race just us two at some random track in the sticks of Oregon. And that to be our opening race for the 800.
Yeah.
I think an ideal meet would be Monaco or a race like Stockholm, where we're still kind of in the prime part of our training. And that's kind of the weird part about this year is that we don't know where people's training's really at because we don't. Some people took breaks a month ago. Some people are taking breaks now, and it's kind of weird. And we're kind of both, we both agree that we would like to race each other, but logistically wise and where to do it at, it doesn't. We still haven't really gotten that down yet.
Mm-hmm. Are you in a normal year? Would this be the midpoint of your season? Is this around USA's, post USA's? Where are you at on that calendar?
I don't know because I haven't been doing any good workouts. That's a good question because we just haven't been racing, and usually I use a lot of these races as indicators. Like I don't really do that great of workouts to be fair. My mileage isn't that much. I do workouts. Pete always has me do base hits, not home runs when it comes to workouts. So I need to get on a track and race to see where I'm at. And I think that'll be a good indicator. I got Craig, and I do a lot of somewhat mile workouts with them a little bit here and there, but when it comes to my 800 time and to see what I can do in that, I gotta step on the track for that.
Yeah. Well, Donavan, we'll hope to see some home runs in this shortened season for you in the 800. Wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you later on down the road.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it. FloTrack.